What if the letter you found in your attic wasn't just old, but a key to a life you never knew existed? This is the story of June, and the voice from the past that changed her future. June had always avoided the attic. It creaked with every step, filled with a scent that reminded her of mothballs, cedar, and a time long gone. The wooden stairs protested as she climbed, a small flashlight in her hand slicing through the dim light. Her grandmother Ada's passing had left her with this house and a responsibility to sort through generations of memory packed in old boxes and dusty chests. She wasn't expecting to find anything significant. But as she moved a stack of hand-stitched quilts, her eyes caught a rusted metal coffee tin, oddly out of place. She pried it open. Inside was a letter, neatly folded but yellowed with age. The date? October 12, 1963. The recipient? Ada Holloway. The sender? Elijah Warren. A name June had never heard before. And something about it, maybe the careful script or the weight it seemed to carry, made her pause. She held it in her hands for several minutes before unfolding it. One word. The first words were hesitant, almost trembling across the paper. Elijah's tone was both desperate and intimate, like a man writing from the edge of something irreversible. It wasn't a letter of affection or apology. It was a warning. Elijah detailed an explosion that had occurred in the Hollow Ridge mine. An explosion everyone had called an accident. But Elijah said otherwise. He'd discovered faulty dynamite storage, ignored warnings, even altered shift reports. And when he tried to speak out, his supervisor threatened him. He had gone to Ada, the only person in town who had listened. But even she couldn't stop what came next. The letter ended with a haunting line. "If this letter ever reaches you, it means I failed, but the truth's still buried, and someone needs to dig it out." June read it again, slowly. She could feel the man's fear between the lines. Something about it felt too real to ignore. Ash Hollow looked exactly how June had imagined it. Quiet, nestled between thick green hills and blanketed with the kind of silence that made secrets linger. The drive-in took her past rusting mailboxes, sun-bleached barns, and a church steeple that hadn't rung in years. She found a room at a small roadside motel, then walked to the town diner for coffee and information. But no one wanted to talk about 1963. A gray-haired waitress gave her a tight-lipped smile. "That mine's been closed longer than you've been alive, sweetheart." Only one man, Earl, sitting at the counter with a black coffee and decades of coal dust in his lungs, offered anything. "You want answers?" he said. "Start with the Hollow Ridge shaft, the one they buried, sealed tighter than a coffin." The way he said it sent a chill down her spine. Ash Hollow wasn't just hiding history, it was protecting it. June drove to the old mine entrance. The path was overgrown, trees reclaiming the land like time erasing memory. The gate was chained shut, but the lock had rusted away. She pushed it open and stepped into a forgotten world. Among the weeds and rubble, she spotted something impossible. A fresh footprint in the mud. It was recent. She wasn't alone. Back at her motel that night, she heard a soft scrape outside her door. When she opened it, no one was there. But a single piece of paper lay on the floor. Scrawled in charcoal were the words, "Stop asking questions. Some truths are better buried." It wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. June wasn't afraid. She was furious. She bought a digital recorder, a notebook, and dove into local archives. She tracked down county death records, library microfilms, and handwritten logs. Official reports listed 12 dead miners in the 1963 collapse. but newspaper obituaries mentioned 14. 2 men, gone without official record. She followed the paper trail until it led to a name she'd seen before: Harold Greaves, the young mine foreman in 1963, the current mayor of Ash Hollow. The more she dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't just an accident. It was a cover-up that had been protected for decades. A librarian named Ruth noticed June's questions and offered quiet help. She whispered a name: Lydia Warren, Elijah's sister. June found her in a small wooden cabin surrounded by wildflowers and silence. Lydia was old, but her eyes were sharp. When June mentioned Elijah, she didn't flinch. "They made him a ghost," Lydia said. "He tried to save them. They wouldn't let him." She handed June a metal box. Inside were old letters, a photograph of a young man in miner's gear, and a cassette tape labeled October 11th. June found a player and pressed play. On the back was a rough map marked with a small X labeled Preacher's Rock. The next morning, she followed the trail up a steep ridge until she reached a massive stone that resembled a pulpit, weathered by time and encrusted with moss. Behind the rock, hidden beneath layers of moss and fallen leaves, June discovered a metal hatch, its surface rusted but surprisingly intact. With effort, she pried it open, revealing a narrow, vertical shaft descending into darkness. She shone her flashlight down, the beam revealing old wooden planks far below. Carefully, she dropped a voice recorder down the shaft, the sound of it landing confirming there was something solid waiting beneath the surface. Intrigued and compelled, June enlisted the help of a local journalist known for her investigative work. Together, they assembled a small team to excavate the hidden site. As they dug, the truth slowly surfaced: documents sealed in wax, fragile blueprints revealing structural weaknesses in the mine, and, most hauntingly, 2 skeletons. The remains were unmistakable. The missing miners, who had vanished without a trace 60 years ago, denied even the dignity of a name or a proper burial. The evidence was irrefutable. The collapse had been preventable, a disaster caused by negligence and sealed away in silence. Through persistent effort, June and her team exposed the dark history buried beneath the earth, giving voice to the forgotten and demanding accountability for a tragedy long concealed. Elijah's desperate confession echoed through the crackling radio, his voice heavy with regret and urgency. "I tried, Ada." Driven by a mix of hope and determination, June traced the path up a rugged ridge until she reached the landmark, a large stone resembling a pulpit. Behind it, concealed beneath layers of moss and fallen leaves, she discovered a metal hatch, weathered by time but still intact. With careful effort, June pried open the hatch, revealing a narrow, vertical shaft descending into darkness. She shone her flashlight down, the beam illuminating wooden planks far below. To confirm her suspicions, she lowered a voice recorder into the shaft, hearing it land solidly against something unseen. There was something down there, something deliberately hidden from the world. Resolute, June enlisted the help of a local investigative journalist and a small crew to begin excavating the site. Their painstaking work soon unearthed a trove of buried secrets: documents sealed in wax, fragile blueprints revealing fatal structural flaws, and, most hauntingly, 2 human skeletons. These were the missing miners, forgotten and denied dignity for 6 decades. The discovery was undeniable evidence of a preventable tragedy and a subsequent cover-up that had silenced the truth for far too long. Through secrecy and determination, June had unearthed the pursuit of justice that those lost men deserved, shedding light on a dark chapter long buried beneath the earth. News cameras descended. The truth exploded across headlines. The mayor resigned. State authorities launched investigations. Families of the victims came forward, some shocked, some vindicated. An memorial plaque was installed beside the sealed Hollow Ridge shaft. June stood at its unveiling for a moment, then quietly walked away. She came to give voice to a truth that had waited too long in the dark. Back at home, June sat at her grandmother's old desk. She took out a pen and wrote, "To the one who refused to be silenced, even when the world closed its ears." She placed it beside Elijah's letter, now preserved in a glass frame. Some legacies aren't loud. Some battles are fought in shadows. But because of Elijah and the woman who once believed him, and a granddaughter who listened, the truth was no longer buried, and Ash Hollow would never be the same. If you like this kind of story, choose like and give your opinion in the comment column. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other exciting stories. See you again in the next video.